When you look at the map, you see a dagger plunged into the very heart of NATO. This is Kaliningrad, the place where Vladimir Putin has been telling the West for years, "Touch me, and I'll strike you from this fortress in the heart of Europe." Home to Iskander missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads, shelter for the Baltic Fleet, Russia's unsinkable aircraft carrier in the West. For years, this is how it was explained to the Russian people. We are strong there, we are invincible there. But today, that fortress fell. No, not a single bullet was fired. Not a single NATO soldier crossed the border. Kaliningrad was quietly surrendered with a bureaucratic signature and a ruthless logistical move. Vladimir Putin's nuclear fortress has now become Europe's largest open-air prison. A single signature in Lithuania on November 21st severed Russia's vital energy link with this region. Official data and reports from the field show that Moscow was completely helpless in the face of this move. Putin's tanks, missiles, and navy were rendered immobile by a simple customs decree. The intensity and gravity of the situation have not yet been fully understood, but the picture that emerges is a disaster scenario for Russia. November 21st, a historic turning point. Lithuanian railways officially halted the passage of cargo belonging to Russia's energy giant, Kremlin cash cow Lukoil, to Kaliningrad. Don't view this as a simple trade restriction. This is cutting off the lifeline of a city, a region. Why is this so critical? Let's look at the numbers. Lithuanian Railways, LTG, transported a total of 371,000 tons of petroleum products to Kaliningrad throughout 2024. Note that 345,000 tons of this figure, almost all of it, belonged to Lukoil, which is now on that banned list. What was this oil used for? This oil was the fuel for the heating system in a Kaliningrad family's home. This oil was the power for generators in hospitals. This oil was the diesel for public transport, ambulances, and fire trucks. And most importantly, this oil was the lifeblood flowing through the veins of Putin's tanks, armored vehicles, and Baltic Fleet ships, which he trusted so much. Now that lifeline has been cut. The Lithuanian side is extremely calm. This is not hostility, they say. We are simply managing business risks. We cannot work with a company on the sanctions list. This is where Putin finds himself helpless. He has no army to declare war on. He has a corporate procedure called risk management. And this procedure leaves 1 million Russian citizens in the middle of winter facing the risk of freezing, the risk of being left in the dark. This situation once again highlights the enormous gap between Putin and the Russian people. For those sitting in their palaces in Moscow, this may be a matter of diplomatic note. But for a mother in Kaliningrad, it means not being able to heat her child's room. For a factory worker, it means the factory shutting down and losing their job. Lithuania's move proves how Putin's promise of, "I offer you a safe and stable life," evaporates when the thermometer hits -10. Without energy, there is no life. And right now, Kaliningrad's life support unit has been unplugged. If this blow had come only from NATO member Lithuania, seen as the enemy, the Kremlin could have used it for propaganda. "Look, the West is strangling us," they would say. But the most painful, most ironic, and for Putin most humiliating aspect of this crisis comes from brother Belarus. We call this friendly fire. The second arm of the logistical stranglehold is a full-blown hostage crisis on the highway. Here's what happened. Lithuania reopened its borders on November 20th, which it had previously closed due to smuggling disguised as weather balloons. What would you normally expect? Traffic to flow, goods to reach Kaliningrad, right? But no. The Belarusian regime, namely the bureaucracy of Putin's most loyal ally Lukashenko, turned this situation into blackmail, a hostage crisis. Belarusian customs are only allowing new trucks entering the country after the reopening of the borders to leave. But what about the thousands of Lithuanian and European plated trucks that have been stuck inside since the beginning of the month during that political crisis? They are still there. Hostages. They were forcibly towed to paid parking lots. They have been there for days, for weeks. The drivers are miserable, the goods are rotting, and the companies are losing thousands of dollars every day. There's more. A technical torture has also been initiated for newly entering trucks. Trailer swapping has been banned. What does this mean? In the logistics world, it means I'm making you unable to work. You can't transfer the load from one tractor to another, your operational flexibility ends, your costs triple, and the risk of cargo damage skyrockets. Belarus is strangling the logistics route to Russia with its own hands. Think about this. While Moscow scrambles to supply Kaliningrad, its ally, Minsk, is cutting off Russia's logistics route just to spite Lithuania. This is proof that Putin cannot even enforce his will in his own backyard. This is proof of how the Union State, established by Russia, turns into a state of chaos in times of crisis. This situation does not only affect the transport sector. Hundreds of small transport companies are on the verge of bankruptcy. Thousands of truck drivers, warehouse workers, mechanics, tire repairmen, all are being dragged into the abyss of unemployment in a chain reaction. Those trucks stuck at the border are not just piles of metal. They are nails hammered into the coffin of Kaliningrad's economy. And do you know what caused all this chaos? Hard to believe, but true: weather balloons. Russia and its allies, navigating the gray areas of international law, load GPS devices and contraband, cigarettes, onto seemingly innocent meteorological balloons and release them toward the NATO border. Lithuanian border guards shot down more than 10 such balloons in just 2 days. Approximately 12,300 packs of contraband cigarettes. Moscow and Minsk think they are harassing the West with these hybrid warfare games. But what was the result? The West said, "Then I'll close the doors." And when those doors closed, it wasn't the cigarettes you sent by balloon that were stranded. It was tons of food, medicine, and raw materials meant for Kaliningrad. Putin's clever strategies have backfired and hit his own people. The situation in Kaliningrad is even more dire. Because it's like an island. They have to import everything from outside. When logistics costs double, the price of cheese in the market also doubles. But wages? Wages are shrinking. In fact, wages are disappearing because factories are closing. People and companies are resorting to primitive methods, returning to the dark days of the 90s just to survive. While Putin dreams of a greater Russia, he has taken the people of Kaliningrad back 30 years. What about the military dimension? Putin's real source of pride? That Baltic Fleet that makes NATO tremble. The truth is, without fuel, there is no victory. Lithuania's Lukoil ban has hit not only civilian cars, but also military machinery. Do you know how much fuel a tank consumes? How many tons of diesel does a warship need to leave port? Those massive vehicles carrying Iskander missile batteries don't run on water. If the flow of 371,000 tons of fuel arriving by rail is cut off, those tanks become piles of metal. Those ships become floating steel coffins. Russian military commanders must be in a state of panic right now, because they see that Moscow cannot even resupply its most strategic base within its own territory. This is where NATO's strategy comes into play. They call this the Salami Tactics. NATO is neutralizing Russia not with one big war, but by strangling it piece by piece, step by step. Let's look at the timeline. June 2022, rail transit was restricted. Russia shouted, threatened, but could do nothing. NATO saw through Russia's bluff. February 2023, Poland closed its border gates, road transit slowed down. Russia was again helpless. And now, November 2025, oil is being cut off. With each step, the Kaliningrad fortress weakened a little more. NATO neutralized Russia's greatest threat by leaving it without fuel, without firing a single bullet. The Iskander missiles may still be there, but what morale will the commanders have to fire them when they see the logistical support behind them collapsing, the fuel tankers not arriving? This is the failure of Russian military doctrine. Putin's deterrent power has been turned into a paper tiger by a logistical blockade. Kremlin propaganda will immediately kick in. No problem, we'll transport them by ship. Really? Let's analyze this alternative. Yes, there is a sea route on the map, but in logistics math, this is not a solution, it's suicide. First, capacity. The fleet between Kaliningrad and St. Petersburg is nowhere near capable of handling the massive volume carried by road and rail. There aren't enough ro-ro ships. There aren't enough tankers. There are already months-long queues for existing ships. Second, cost. What you transport by road in 1 unit, you transport by sea in 6 units. Insurance costs, port taxes, fuel, extra handling. Transporting oil by ship will skyrocket pump prices in Kaliningrad. Can Moscow subsidize this cost? With what money? Third, security. The Baltic Sea is now a NATO lake. With the participation of Sweden and Finland, Russian ships are being monitored at all times. Moreover, we have seen what Ukraine's naval drones are doing in the Black Sea. While the Russian Navy's capacity to protect civilian ships is already in question, supplying Kaliningrad entirely by sea would make Russia an open target. So the sea route is not a salvation. It is merely an astronomically expensive band-aid delaying the inevitable end. And this band-aid cannot stop bleeding from a severed artery. And here's the biggest truth. Can Putin respond militarily to Lithuania's decision? Can he roll his tanks to the Lithuanian border? No. Because behind this crisis, there are no tanks, there are financial and legal procedures. He faces Brussels' political decisions and the sanctions of the US Treasury, OFAC. Who will Putin invade? A SWIFT code? A bank transfer? Modern war is not won only on the battlefield. It is won at the logistics and finance table. And Putin has already lost this battle at the table. His military power has been rendered ineffective against the West's signature power. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments. We read every comment carefully. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to hear the facts. Only the facts, and see beyond the propaganda. See you in the next analysis.